Okay guys, welcome back to our little grammar lessons, and in this lesson we're going to talk about reflexive verbs that you've probably already learned in school. So on the grammar lesson on Thursday, when I asked you and some of you what was a reflexive verb, a lot of people were able to answer. So that'll just probably mainly be revisions for you, but that's always nice to have the little rules, the little script, um, and you really need to be clear on the rules and what we use them for. So reflexive verbs, what are they? They are used to talk about feelings or about daily routine activities. So if I take the example of the daily routine activities, for example, I wake up, je me lève. Sorry, the gestures come because I actually taught French to year 6 before. So je me lève, I wake up, that's an activity, a daily routine activity. If you want to talk about a feeling, so for example, je me sens bien, I feel good, je me sens bien, that will be a reflexive verb too. So how do you actually form the reflexive verb? You have to add this little part in the middle that we call the reflexive pronoun. And what does a pronoun mean? What is a pronoun? A pronoun means a little word that is replacing something else. So for example, je, so I'll just take my whiteboard here, just to explain it quickly. Je, tu, il, and all them, you know, all the subject, the one we use with the verbs and stuff, blah, 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 blah. They are pronouns. They are subject pronoun. They are used instead of using the full name. So instead of saying Florian mange, to talk about me, I'm going to take my name and change it into a little word that reflects me. So je mange. That is what we call a pronoun, a little word that replaces something bigger. So here, the reflexive pronoun, they are all called pronouns because they are they're replacing some things. So for example, if I say I wake up, it's like I wake up myself. I am the person who is waking myself up. Therefore, instead of writing this whole sentence, we're just going to use this little word that is going to replace all that and just mean exactly the same thing. That's what a pronoun is. So our reflexive pronouns, we are going to add them in the middle of our verb. So for example, if you have je lave here, which is I wash, here we are, you have to add your little reflexive pronoun, je me lave, there we are, and it means I wash myself or I get washed. I wash myself, I get washed or cleaned. Okay, so that is a reflexive pronoun. That's how you actually make a reflexive verb. So you're going to add this little pronoun in the middle between the subject and the verb. So now we have different reflexive pronoun according to the person who's talking. So reflexive pronoun. If you're je, tu, il or elle, nu, vous, and il or elle, you can have different reflexive pronouns. So je me, tu, te, ce, nu. So here that's a bit funny because in your sentence you have nu, which kind of sounds like a repetition that actually sounds correct. So we wash ourselves, nous lavons, which is always interesting. So vous, same here, and ce, just like the same then here. And then the verb is going to be the same that what we had learned in the present tense before. So if it's an ER verb, there will be lave, lave with an S, lave normal, lavons, ENS, laver, and lave. There we are. Okay, and then if it's an IR or E verb, you have the different endings that we have learned in the lesson 2, which was the regular verbs. And then if you have an irregular verbs, then you have to write the endings of the irregular verbs, of course. But basically what we're interested in just here are the reflexive pronouns that are this. Okay, so you need to put them in between the subject and the verb to have pronouns. Now, reflexive means that you're doing something to yourself. Reflexive, just like reflection, just like a mirror. Okay, that's how you remember. So if you're watching something in the mirror, you're going to have reflection. It's on yourself. You watch yourself. You see yourself in the mirror. It's yourself. If someone is watching themselves in the mirror, then it will be their own reflection. So that's what we call it reflexive verbs. So now it has to be an action that you do to yourself. So if you're talking about washing, so je me lave, that will be I wash myself, and that will be reflexive. Oh, that's the sorry, that's actually X. So we are reflexive. Okay, and then if you decide to change it and write je te lave, which is correct, okay, but it's not reflexive anymore. It means I wash you. Okay, so I wash you. You're not doing the action to yourself anymore. You're doing it to someone else. It's not reflexive. It's more something that you would do to someone else. So it's not reflexive anymore, and that falls into the category that is called a object pronoun. This one just becomes the normal object pronoun, and we'll learn about the object pronoun a little bit later. Okay, but for now, remember that for the reflexive, it has to fit the subject, so it has to fit the person who's doing the action, so they do it to themselves. Now, little exceptions here, because you know I love exceptions. For me, te, se, so for 1, 2, 3, and 6 again. So remember our 1, 2, 3, 6 from earlier lessons. You are going to change to m apostrophe, t apostrophe, and s apostrophe in front a. Let's play the drums in front of a vowel, ladies and gentlemen. Because yes, all the rules kind of like intertwine into each other's, which is both very annoying, but once you understand it, it actually makes sense, and it's like a bit of a huge puzzle that you have to complete. And it's really difficult because at the moment you don't have the picture, so you don't really see what it's supposed to look like. But once you actually understand the French and you become fluent, it will be a lot more easy to learn the grammar because you have the big pictures. That makes sense. Right. Now our next exception is negative. So when, just something to know, actually, it's not really an exception. When you are doing the negative, when you're doing the near future, every time, so actually all the time, the reflexive pronoun try to write as fast as possible, is always near the verb. Okay, so it always wants to be cuddled, the verb. So je me lave, that we took as an example earlier. If you write it in a negative, you're going to say je ne me lave pas, here close to the verb, always close to the verb. If you're using the future, that's F, sorry for my very bad handwriting. That would be je vais me laver. You always put the me in front of laver, in front of the verb, because that's basically how it works. So reflexive pronouns, the little reflexive part will always be close to the verb. And the one last thing from me, I said it means to do the action to yourself, do action to yourself. Okay. However, It can also mean to each other. So, for example, here, je me lave. Okay, means I wash myself. If you take the example of il se lave here, that could mean that two cats are on two sides of the room and they are both cleaning themselves, or it could also mean that they are cleaning each other's. You know how cats do is very cute. So that could mean both of that actually, and only the context of the sentence will help you. And French people actually get confused sometimes, and they have to ask for clarification. So, wait a minute, who's cleaning? What's happening here? Because that's one ambiguity of the French language. So it can either be they wash each other, or they wash themselves, if that makes sense. And that was all from me. So I'll let you go and fill in your little booklet. And that's it for me for today for the reflexive verbs. Speak soon.